here's what I truly believe the storyline is. Now we're going to look up theories and see if we can get anyone else to agree with us, or if it seems pretty standard, yes, no, this is what the story is. We'll find out, hopefully. We'll find out. Hopefully it won't be a mystery forever. I don't know. But I truly believe, going all the way back to the beginning, hopefully moving forward here, I believe that your father started a house because he was a doctor or something, and he wanted to help mentally, I want to say handicapped, but that's an old term, developmentally disabled individuals get better and whatnot. This is way back in the day where practices were horrible, like lobotomies and stuff that was actually doing more harm than good, but people just didn't know better back then. They thought this is what you did, and this is how they either got fixed or they died and you tried, you know. So he started a business with a fellow doctor or businessman, I don't know, Lucien. I don't know if his name's Dr. Lucien Flowers, Dr. Flowers, I don't know. Anyways, who was either a friend of his or they became friends, I don't know, and hired a nurse named Elodie Carter, fell in love with her. After they got married, I think he found out that she actually had developmental disabilities herself. Whether he knew that before impregnating her or not, I do not know, but they had a child, named it after the mother's middle name, Erica. And I think Erica became old enough to see her mother put away in an insane asylum, or a hospital for the developmentally disabled, I guess you could put it, and just kind of saw her get locked away, in a matter of speaking, and due to some of their practices and just the miscarriage, just saw her mother get treated horribly. Maybe not intentionally or directly horribly, but just in general. And I think all this trauma, not only seeing her mother waste away like this, but also dying, to protect herself, I believe her brain split into two different personalities, and I think this also the trauma also gave her things like schizophrenia and what have you. And I believe her brain protected herself by splitting into two personalities, which she knew Mia Green because she was alive when her mother died. And I think that her murderous kind of I want revenge for what happened to my mother personality, whether she knew it or not, kind of took the form of Mia Green, even though Mia was dead, while her innocent side stayed as Erica, the personality we know as Erica. And I think eventually her other personality took over, murdered her father, then she grew up just festering on it, and eventually devised a plan to get back at everyone who was involved with her mother's incarceration and eventual death that probably she believes wouldn't have happened if she was just able to live free. And so, you know, the person who signed her in, Johar, Steinbeck, because he also, like, watched after, I don't know. Who the fuck knows? That one, Lucien, pretty much anyone who not only got in her way or had something to do with it, but also people who just willingly put their own daughter in there, like the sergeant, or the chief inspector, etc., etc., etc. And I think as the story is progressing, as she's getting her revenge on people and killing them, I think she's hallucinating. I think all of them are exposed to this byproduct of the perfume, quote unquote, that they make, that causes these hallucinations. And I think a mixture of just how strong the plant is, the flower is, mixed with the fact that it's filled with chemicals that they're constantly breathing in, causes them to die and have these massive hallucinations. It makes them die early. which they could live. They just got treatment, but they don't know that. Anyways, at the end, when Mia starts dying, I truly believe that that is Erica and the two personalities of Erica and Mia merging together. I think the line that crosses the innocence that is Erica and the murderous revenge that is Mia is getting closer and closer together every time she kills, until eventually Mia dies and she just is going to embody and become both sides in one. That's just kind of a theory I'm throwing around here. And then, however the end plays out, it's however the end plays out. Either you finish your revenge, kill everybody who had a part in this, and then burn down the evidence and peace out with those who are innocent, or just by yourself if you accidentally kill all the innocent. Or you fully awaken your craziness and they sedate you to stop you. Or you try to fully embody, you try to get rid of your alternate personality and find a way to help you become just Erica. Even after all of the atrocities and the murders and stuff you've committed, you try to just become Erica, which I think is the ending we just had now. So that is my take on what the story is, what's been happening throughout the whole entire storyline. There could be bits and pieces I am missing, I do not know. Hopefully, I'm really hoping that we can go online and not only find people that might agree with that theory, people have come to the same conclusions, but also have someone suggest something that's like, didn't even think about that. I like that. I'm really hoping we can find that. I'm really hoping we can find something from the writer and or director that kind of clues into maybe hints at, yeah, it's kind of, yeah, going this way, that's the right direction, or something, and hopefully we can maybe find some cool the making behind the scenes stuff that could be really, really exciting. So I'm going to cut, and we are going to delve into that world. So I will see you then. Yo, what's up, everyone? We're back. I did a little research. I won't say we, because I don't know what you guys did. So I'm gonna say I did a little research, and we're here at my computer now, not my PS4. I thought I'd throw up the webcam just to make this a little bit more interactive. And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't find much. Interesting enough, I think it's kind of similar to what I assumed it would be like. That I mean, I think there's some people who like really, really enjoy the game, but I feel like it's a minority. I don't feel like a lot of people know about this game, because honestly, I still would have never heard a single word about this game had it not come on for free on the PS Plus. So that's fair. I don't think a lot of people really know about the game, and those who do don't I guess don't really talk about it as much, but we did find a little bit. One thing that did help solve, that's that first tab we have there. That's the order we're going to start, that first tab, the middle tab, and then we're going to watch this behind the scenes, which I don't think is going to answer any questions, because I tried looking up developers' comments, thoughts, and stuff on Erica, and I just got a bunch of either reviews from people who aren't the developers or the Wikipedia. So, as I suspected, I don't think the magicians are going to show how they do their tricks. I don't think they're going to give any answers, but you know, we can hope, we can dream, can we not? Because I can. First things first, we're going to jump over here. I went searching on Erica PS4 Reddit, and I found out some information about the Akal Johar journal here. And I feel like I suspected this at one point, but it was so many numbers, there was no way in fucking hell I was going to go through and do it. And plus, I would have assumed, as we'll get to it here, down here in a second, I would have suspected that it would have been not 0, 1, 0, 2, it would have been like 1, 2, 3, 4. So I probably would have fucked up, or would have figured it out immediately. But I had a suspicion that because it said Johar and then numbers, I assume maybe the numbers mean letters. The numbers are corresponding to the letters in the alphabet, 1 being A, 2 being B. I assumed that. I did have that thought, but again, there's way too many letters. I was not going to spend the time to go fucking through that, but luckily someone did. So if we go down here and we read this, is wondering like what's this whole decipher talking about? And where the fuck? Thank you. And then someone went through and said right here looking for the key Johar 1015080118. I guess that they use this letter number cipher. A being 01, B being 02, all the way up to Z being 26. And he went and did that, and then they were talking about, hey, does anyone actually deciphered it? And someone actually went through it, and pretty much it just seems to be kind of what they mentioned. I believe it was up in this one. It looks like patient records. It just looks like all the patients' records of people who have lived and or passed away there, being talking about here's some notes and references down here, but talking about people that have pretty much their name, age, months as an inpatient, whether they're single or married, NLR-I, which he explains down the bottom here. We'll check that out in a second. He also explains what these sections, section 36, 136, 37, are as well, and of course symptoms and conditions. So pretty much reading through all this that they went and deciphered, if it is all correct, and I assume it is. Nicole Kent, Selena Chambers, all these names, as even people mentioned here, does not seem to have anything to do with the story in any way, shape, or form. Why Johar keeps a encrypted journal of all the patients, I don't really know or really understand. But none of the names seems to have anything to do with the story itself. And in the notes here it says Section 37 refers to the Mental Health Act of 1983. Section 37, it's when a person is sent to a mental health facility instead of a prison due to mental health concerns. Section 136 refers to the Mental Health Act of 1983. Section 136, it's when someone needs to be involuntarily committed to a mental institution for their own safety as well as the safety of others. As referred to the document found. The Mental Health Act of 1983 is referenced in a document found in the drawer in the lab where Dr. Ballard's matches are. Good to know. SUDEP refers to sudden death in epilepsy. ICH refers to intracerebral hemorrhage, bleeding of the brain. But I think the NR stands for no living relatives, because of course Hannah and Toby's parents' patient files. Next of kin, that makes sense. Fake depression to get away from foster care. Interesting. 2 Nicole Kent. Yeah. So it's good to know that. Oh, that's back to the site, right? Here again, r/Erica PS4. If you want to go check out the whole thing, there's some pretty cool stuff in there. Like people asking, can you save Blake? And the general consensus was no. Is Blake a bad guy? The general consensus is it's hard to tell. There's times where you see him arguing with Ballard, being like, what the fuck are you guys doing here? But there's also times that it looks like he's in on things with Lucien, conspiring with him down the tunnels, which both we discovered through our playthroughs. Luckily, because we could have easily missed those and potentially still managed to get all the achievements. Possibly. I'm not 100% positive. Or trophies, as they are on the PS4. So that explains the journal, and I'm really glad that someone went through and did that. But again, it doesn't seem to have any relevance to the actual story itself. I'm sure one of those that it's blurry and hard to read, which is why some of these say intelligible, is your mother. I assume one of them would be your mother. Don't think she was in there for 19 months though. She wasn't single, but she was around 29 years when she died. So it's possible that one of these could easily be your mother. But besides that, I don't think it has any relevance to the story. And of course the last one being Tara Johnson, which you saw the letter at the end. The letter when you go find Alody Carter's, your mother's files. If you read that letter to get that one trophy, it talks about they're sending their condolences and sending back belongings of Tara Johnson passing away. Besides that, no relevance to the story, but it is cool that someone went through and deciphered it, and I appreciate the hard work. It's Nicolite. Thank you very much for going in and getting all this. I really appreciate that. Helped us out a lot. The second thing that we got here is I found a thread on PSN profiles forums, apparently. I don't know. That said, this story makes no sense, so I figured I'd give it a check that. And we do have some questions in here, and I started reading into this, and it really seemed like I didn't see anyone who was drawing the same conclusions that I was. I honestly have not seen anyone draw the same conclusion that I have yet. Now this is pretty long. I haven't scrolled through all of it, and I'll do little cuts, skimming past the parts after I skim past the parts I want to talk about. Because it was something I forgot to mention when I did the review of my final verdict on the PS4 just a little bit ago. It's something I forgot to mention, and I'm glad someone brought it up so I could talk about it, because there's what I think happened with that. But besides that, no. I thought this was interesting, and someone said, the story makes no sense. We'll answer these as we go through them. What I feel, because again, there is no single answer. Nothing's ever explained, so there is technically no single answer, and that is kind of what makes it beautiful. I don't like those kind of stories too. Like, what's your interpretation? It's like I want to have my interpretation, but I also kind of want to know what the finite answer is. Please, writers, developers, hit me up. I want to know. But it is kind of beautiful when you can have people who are just like, what is this? And other people are like, I think this is what it is. And then people are like, no, I think this is what it is. So that's kind of cool. But this is my interpretation answering these questions. What I think. Who killed your father? Pretty sure you did. I'm still pretty convinced that you did, but we already went over that. Was green just in your head? As I mentioned, I believe that green was your a multiple one, another personality. I think Erica had multiple personality disorder. I think Mia Green was one of her personalities that she drew from Mia Green, who was actually alive and overdosed and died after your mother died. But in short, yes, I think she was in your head, because I think she was just a different personality of you that came out. She was the murderous side of you that came out. That's just my opinion. That's what I think. If so, who messes up your apartment while you're in the hospital? No, that's a good question. I never really questioned that one. My guess, and this will kind of come up later, my guess is either you did, in a fit of rage trying to collect your things or something, or or you did to try to make it look like, try to frame that, oh, it couldn't possibly be me, my place was trashed, someone else must have been here. Or it was a struggle, but we'll get to that later. Did she need it was green in your head, or did she fake her own death? You know, those pictures of her corpse. I don't think so. I don't think she faked her own death. I did question that after the first playthrough, but I don't think she faked her own death. I think Mia Green was actually dead. I think the Mia Green was just in your head. Does Green just carry the body of the night manager to your house? No. I also don't think that was her flat. I think you own both the flats. If I'm being honest with you, I think they were both I think they were both Erica's houses. But we'll get back to the night manager here in a little bit. What is the code in Chief's Black Book? We grabbed that. Is Blake in on the whole thing? They have some theories on that. I don't think Blake is. Honestly, I don't think there's anything for him to be in on, because I don't think there's anything going on. Now, when he goes down there and talks to Lucien, I'm still suspicious of what that room that only specific medallions unlock. I'm kind of suspicious of why that's there and why they keep the masks there. That does confuse me. I'm not fully in on that. But who knows? But I think they, as I mentioned before, that the underground passages I think is just. I don't think there's anything culty about that. I don't think there's anything suspicious about that. I think that it's easier to get to certain top priority locations for staff members if they can just zip in through faster shortcuts. I do not think that things like that was unheard of back in the day. I don't think people do it now because I don't think there's a need to do it now. But I wouldn't put it past just having secret entrances that the patients wouldn't know about, so that you can get places faster, but they couldn't find it or couldn't unlock it without a key that y'all had. I think the medallion was just to emphasize, like, why was it a suspicious medallion instead of just an actual key? I think the medallion was to just kind of unify them all behind this banner of, like, know thyself, and that was their motto. And I think they were just like, this is cool, let's take it to the next level kind of thing. I honestly don't think that those were suspicious, and so when I think Blake would know about all these as the head of security detail at the place. He needs to know about any possible entrance in and out of the house. So I think he would know about those, and I think him going down there with Lucien, when he's talking to Lucien, he's very much just like, I think she's not telling us shit. I don't think he was just like, oh, she's onto our secret plans. He wasn't anything like that, you know. So I don't think he was in on anything. I think he was just trying to do his job and just trying to take care of Erica, really, while also trying to keep an eye on her, because it starts after the chief inspector dies. It starts to look like it could be her. She was the only one alone, and she's claiming a dead person did it, you know. So I think near the middle to end, it kind of becomes him keeping an eye on Erica as well. So, as we continue on here, this person, by the way, good questions, Ericness. But Bud Arc here says definitely green, and that immediately goes against what I just said. So it's interesting. That's an interesting theory. That kind of goes into the thought of she faked her own death, which I think he mentions somewhere down here, which we'll get to that. Don't read yet. I scrolled up. You can't even do it. Anyways, it kind of goes into a Sherlock Holmes, you know, with Robbie Downey Jr., like slowing the heartbeat, kind of faking your own death theory. It's a possibility. Because, I mean, I guess they did find her overdosed, so she might have, like, appeared to be dead, like, you know, those who, like, go on a cocaine, I believe it is, binge, and then their heart just stops for a while. and they appear to be dead, and then poof, they just jump back up like, hey, let's go, you know? Possibility. Definitely a possibility. I don't think so, but that's a possibility. Was green your head? I'd say no, maybe it's just your special butterfly powers at work. It's a little suspicious. If so, who messed up your apartment? I'm thinking one of the Delphi cult searching for evidence. For seals or something. Maybe green, but I don't know what she was looking for. Maybe throwing the police off the path. Actually, since Erica's journal is torn up and Mother's photo is missing, we know it's green. Because we find the photo at the altar. Or maybe one of the cult placed it there in the ritual. It's still unclear about that. So, I think this person, Bud Arc, is I feel like there's two paths you can take to this. Either yes, this is real, and there is a cult, and all these people are hiding it up. Mia Green faked her own death, and she's coming in to help you, or it's all in your head. It's Erica. I feel like there's only two paths you can really take here, and he's going for the other one, which I want to be real, because that would make for a really awesome, exciting story. But if we're keeping it in the realm of reality, chances are it's just all in your head. Because they throw a lot of evidence at you that can make you believe that it's pretty much just like, yeah, no, it's pretty in your head. However, there's still always that little hope that you could be like, yeah, but that's what they want you to think. You know, you can always go for that other angle, but I honestly think it's all in your head. Did she fake her own death? It seems like she's very much real at the end. I disagree with that statement. Because she, like, if you're watching, she disappears. Well, I mean, I guess she could have gone around, but why would she do that? She disappears, and then just comes out of nowhere and shoots Blake. Blake doesn't seem to even notice her approaching. You think he would respond. He's not the greatest cop, but you'd think he'd respond, because we did find out he did have a gun on him. And then, you know, he just gets capped and doesn't seem to even attempt. Honestly, I think it was Erica who pulled out the gun on him. He was just taken aback, because it's just like, you know, Erica, like, where have you been? She just pulls the gun and fucking shoots him. Like, you didn't see that coming, you know, because, like, even if you suspect that, I think it might be Erica, you don't fully realize what that means until you see her about to kill you. And then you feel like, oh no, it's her, she is this vicious, you know. I think she catches a lot of people off guard, and I think that's why she's able to kill so many people. Because even if they're like, I don't know, she seems a little fishy, is no moment, like, she just kind of gets in, is acting all innocent, and then there goes your fucking throat, you know. So, I don't think there's any proof at the end that Mia is truly real. Especially how she keeps disappearing and reappearing only when Erica's around. Not when anyone else is alive or around. So, I don't know. For her being dead, it's possible she just inhaled some of that perfume and it put her into a near-death state, similar to Toby at the end. I think if you shoot Toby with the oleander, I think she starts to convulse again. I think it's the lipotine or whatever the fuck it is. It's the one that starts with L, the clear liquid. I think that's the one that just kind of puts her out. But it is a possibility that she took that one. But that one, well, no, I mean that one did. I mean, it did kill her, but that's because she needed a specific drug to make her heart go back to normal and not just stop when she had the convulsions. So it's possible. It's probably that there's a body buried in the grave, but it's never confirmed. This is true, but I just assumed that either all this went down before any confirmation could come back to them, or it was one of those just like, yeah, no, we got proof. It's her body. Like, you gotta watch Erica. I don't think she's okay. I think she's not all there. You know, I was kind of imagined one of those two happened, and they just didn't tell her. Like no one came forth and was like, "No, dude, we checked the body. It's her. Like she is dead." Like, because then that would, that would blow the case. That would blow the possibility of anything happening. So I feel like they did find that out and just didn't tell Erica, and no one got the chance before Erica killed them to tell her. So I don't know. That's just my opinion. See now this one. Let's talk about it here. I think someone else mentioned it here. Yeah, okay, this one here. So we're gonna mix those two together. Remember, KH Del Boy, with this statement here. Does Green just carry the body of the night manager, Steinbeck, to her house, apartment technically, but yes, to her house? And he says, I think we just go with it. Lots of movies and shows have improbable logic, which is true. Like The Dark Knight Rises or whatever the fuck it is, like how he gets back from a desert place to the city, to Gotham, within like an hour. Like sometimes it's just improbable logic and you just have to go with it. So maybe just seduces him. It seems like he was killed and skinned at the apartment, which I agree that part is true. Killed and skinned at the apartment. And if we go down here to KH Del. I don't think I read this one. We'll read both of these. So, two things that doesn't make sense or didn't get explained. After the first night in the hospital, Erica winces when she gets up. If you examine the mirror, it's revealed that she has a serious large bruise on her stomach. It's true. No explanation was given for this. This one, actually, he did make a really good point. When Erica escapes from the basement, the door was locked by a simple bolt. I never really thought about that, but when Erica returns to the door from the outside with Green, the medallion doesn't work and it's sealed from the inside. Why would anyone install a bolt on that door if you need a special key to open it? That's a good point. I didn't think about that. That's a little silly. I will give you that one. I do think that that's a little... Just like it's sealed. Well, someone probably just latched it. Why would... If there's a latch, why would you need... Yeah, no, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. That one I would definitely put up here with the whole... movie logic. Sometimes things just aren't explained. But down here, Bud Arc again. Bud Arc's a fucking champ here. I always wondered about this. Did she get punched in the stomach or suffer an accident or something? Maybe something that got cut early out of the game. Also a possibility, you never know. While we're at it, how come when Hannah or Lucien delivers the oleander humidifier thing and you choose to bin it, you still wind up face up in a field? I've also wondered that myself. Who or what put me out there and for what purpose? What is that string tied to her branch? And why is there a pedal between her toe? I freaking binned it. Yeah, no. I think that's the thing. I've wondered that myself too. I actually do have an explanation for that one when you bin it. And this will all tie together. I've kind of talked about this, I think, in my Inspector Cage video, but again, if you're not watching all these and you're just jumping to my final analysis complete of Erica here. First off, welcome. I'm glad you could stop by. Honestly, so if we go back, I believe Erica killed your father, her own father. I won't go over why again, but I believe no one suspected her because they couldn't find a weapon. So they couldn't find no fingerprints. I assume she just hid those away somewhere. And no one's going to check a little girl's belongings to see, did you murder your father? Especially back in the day. I don't think anyone's going to do that. And again, there's no given time. There's also no given age. It said that even a Wikipedia review of it, like indiscriminate age. You don't know how old she is. And you also don't know what year it is. I'm assuming it is anywhere between 1950 to 1970. That's why I'm putting this just based off of practices like lobotomies and just the way they're dressed and the structures, the housing the structures themselves, very old school. And again, practices when they sedate Toby. No one in your right mind in today's age would First off, if you have to sedate a patient, which I don't think would ever happen anymore. Like, they would not inject them on the spot. They would probably take medicine that would just kind of calm them down day-to-day basis anyways. That would be obviously the only form of sedation, would just be in pill form. No one's gonna fucking syringe somebody nowadays. You'd be so fucking sued and fired. But the fact that they grab her, wrestle her down to the ground and just shoot her up, you would never see that. You would never fucking see that within the past 10 years. Well, not, sorry, 10 years, I always think it's like 20s through 2020. It is 2021, you can see that in the bottom there. I always count as just the 2000s, so when I meant 10 years ago, like 90s. I don't think any time between now to like the 90s you would see that. God, maybe in the early 90s, but it's still a little suspicious. But anyways, you would not see that. In recent years, you would not see that. That place would be shut the fuck down. They would be sued. They would all be fucking fired. Like, they would have their medical licenses revoked and just taken away. That doesn't happen. So my guess is his 1950s to 1970s, at least, if not earlier. But my guess is 1950s, because it did seem like kind of an old vehicle too. So, anyways, so I don't going back now that we got off on that tangent. I think no one would suspect her. I don't think anyone would search her possessions for a murder weapon. They would have assumed that the killer took it with them, and no one would suspect a small, what she looks like, 6 to 8 year old girl. Maybe around 10 maximum. No one would suspect a 6 to 10 year old girl of murdering her own father. Like, no one would. You know what I mean? She woke up to find her father dead. She saw a killer. Killer ran away. It's very hard to get DNA evidence back in the day. Very believable story. No one's gonna suspect her. Johar, I don't know what went down with Johar, but he did get cut up and whatnot. She did live at the house for a while. She probably knew where Johar lived at one point. So she probably could easily get to him. Again, who's going to suspect all these years later that would be Erica? Especially when the limb is removed and then sent to Erica, which I also do not believe it was I don't think it was mailed at all. I think she just literally put it there. Her other personality put it there for her to see, and she didn't know that, because obviously when you're on that other personality, you don't understand. Sometimes, I mean, it's different case to case, but usually I think the general consensus is if your other personality is taking over, you don't know that. The personality that you are most of the time doesn't know that. So, so again, who would suspect Erica? Why would she go find this person 10 plus years later? I'm assuming is what it is. At least 10 plus years later. Why would she then go find this person and kill him if they didn't even suspect her of killing her father? So I think that's why. I think that's what happened there. I think, especially since a lot of cases, if you complain about Steinbeck to like Blake, you can then complain about him to you complain to him to Lucien. Like, I think there's a lot of instances that they slipped in there for her to be like, I don't like this person. He seems angry, he seems annoying, and I believe I know Johar signed the admittance for her mother, and I'm pretty sure it's somewhere it says that Steinbeck was the person who not looked after, but was pretty much like your mother's keeper or something like that. So I think that's why he was targeted by her. And here's my suspicion of how that happened, how that took place. I honestly think that she kept that knife and gun after all those years. Where or how she got it, I don't know. It's very possible she could have gotten it from Mia when Mia was still alive, but I don't know. But I believe she kept said weapon and whatnot. I think in the middle of the night, she went and forced Steinbeck back to her apartment at gunpoint. I think she came up to him, put a gun to him, forced him into her car. Because as we've seen many times in some of the cutscenes, these guards don't seem to be on the up and up. If someone can literally get knocked out, dragged just 2 feet away and pretty much the open, just barely covered by trees, and then slit his throat and no one else notices, pretty sure they could just walk out of there. She could be holding a gun, like, behind his back with his coat and stuff, just kind of walking, and he's just like, just kind of like, yep, we're just going on a jaunt. I'm pretty sure they could sneak past easily. So I'm pretty sure she took him at gunpoint back to her apartment. And here's what I assume happened. I assume that there was a struggle. I think that's why she wakes up the next day with a bruise on her stomach. I think that there was a struggle. I think that he fought her back. Because out of everyone else, no one else really had time to react to the fight, except for Steinbeck, because she would have had to get him back to the apartment. He would have had a lot of time to think about this. Okay, gotta wait for an opening. Go. Everyone else, I think, got caught off guard, so that's why I don't think there was a struggle. That's why I think she got punched in the stomach. I think she got attacked and was able to either cut him, trip him, and then slash his throat, shoot him. I don't know. But I think that there was a struggle, which might explain why there was such a disarray of things knocked over and just torn apart and whatnot. No, I think while in that state, she might have just taken the photograph while she was there anyways. It's just like smashed it and took it with her or something. I do not know. But that's what I think happened. I think she owned both of those apartments. Because why would anyone check? Like, the person who worked there, because I don't think they would talk to the landlord or whatever. The person who worked there probably knew that she owned both apartments. It was just like, whatever, I won't question it. People do what people do. But no one ever asked, like, do you own both of these? Because why would anyone assume that she does? So I assumed that she just owned both of those apartments. But I don't know. Anyways. So yes, I think she took Steinbeck back to her place. There was a struggle, which caused probably part of the wreckage. Or she just did that to throw off the trail, because her other personality is a psycho killer that is trying not to get caught before her vengeance is complete. So it's high possibility she's like, no one will suspect this, So let's say this up. That's very possible. But I do believe that the bruise on her stomach was because I think Steinbeck fought back. I think in the end, obviously, he lost. But I think that's why there was a bruise on her stomach, personally. Then, with the chief inspector, again, he didn't see it coming. Like, I'm sure, it was just, they left. And he's like, I'm sure she went up to the bathroom, took care of herself or whatever, took care of the blood and whatnot, which I assume was real. Because again, the perfume and stuff, ethanol, hallucinogen, bad for your body stuff. So I think that was real. And then I think she came down, and he was just kind of chilling at his desk, just like, hey, she came up all nice and stuff, and then just fucking slit his throat. And he either like lashed out or kicked at the desk or something, and that's why the lamp fell over and broke and shit. Because if Mia actually was the one who killed him, all she would have had to do was open the door and shoot him. There wouldn't have been no close counters attack that would have caused things to fall over and break. There would have been no struggle. She would just walk in and shot his ass. You know what I mean? That's what she did to Blake. So I feel like that's more proof. So yeah, I think that's why things were broken, because I think there was a bit of a struggle while he was bleeding out and dying. I don't think it lasted long, because I think he was caught off guard because he didn't suspect it. Now, of course, after that, they start to get a little suspicious of her. But the only people who die after that part, you see die, and you see how they die. Again, the night guard, very easy. He's like, oh, what are you doing out here? Here, follow me for a second. Slits his throat. Or actually runs up on him, knocks him out, pulls him back, and then slits his throat. Either of those could be a possibility. Blake, honestly, I don't think he put up a fight, because every single time, every single way that he dies, whether it's in the hallway, I think all of a sudden she just pulls out a gun and shoots him. Or if it's in the situation where she kills the security guard, and she kills the security guard, and she walks in with the knife and he fights her and stuff, he does have a gun on her and he still gets shot. I feel like it doesn't show part of what happens, just to keep the mystery and suspense going. But honestly, I think she drops his guard for a second by saying some real shit to him, and then pulls the gun and shoots him. Or he doesn't suspect she's up to anything because she's not holding the knife when she comes in, and she just pulls out the gun and shoots him. I don't think he saw it coming. I don't think he was prepared for it. I think that's why. When you go to the barn, that I honestly think that she staged. I think Erica put up the sign because clearly she's obsessed with it. It's even all over her house. Not just in Mia Green's apartment, She is obsessed with that sign, so I think she put up those sheets and then created this center where she can use this perfume stuff, which maybe she used that in Steinbeck as well. Maybe he came out of it when she wasn't prepared and he started fighting back. Who knows? Many different theories. Anyways, I think that's what she's creating and concocting it and stuff and using it, and just has that shrine to her mother, or at least her alternate personality does, because she really cared about her mother and knows that barn is abandoned and no one's going to be occupying it, so uses it because it's close to Delphi House. I don't know. Suspicions. Anyways, when he's there, he's looking around and it's just like, yeah, it's not in here. Let's get going. And I think Erica just slits Blake's throat. Not prepared for it. No weapon drawn. Just turns around and boom, dead. So that is my explanation, I think, for everyone's death. All the other ones, like Dr. Ballard, Toby, Lucien, you see happen because you actually do it. And again, that's after Mia dies, which passes away there in the hall. Again, my theory of her other personality is dying because they're becoming one, and once she finally passes away in the hall, they are now one, and she's just killing people, and it's her now. It's not the other personality, it's just who she is now. Theories. Okay, now that I'm done talking about that, I'm going to scan through some of these, cut in and out unless I can find something, and then we're going to check out the behind the scenes, and we're going to put a cap on this once and for all. Ooh, guys, we got something here. Thank you, Terminus Cross. I didn't even look at this before I was saying all that shit. So one thing I'm on about, and I like this, if Mia is not real, or is indeed dead, which would have been quite a while ago too, it's true, who exactly lives on the flat next door to Erica? As I mentioned, I think Erica owns both of them, and lived there. It makes sense to find Steinbeck there, but if it's all in Erica's head, we can say Erica went out at night to kill Steinbeck and drag him back there. Maybe that's how she got the bruise. You're onto something here. The guy was defending himself, maybe. But that's a lot of work for one night. Not to mention painting all the signs and hanging that crap everywhere. It's possible, though. Still, if Mia's not real, who is living there? I mean, what? They went off on vacation, and when the police found all that out, wouldn't they contact the landlord about this to find out who rented this place? And if they looked like I suppose a killer and what her name and everything is makes no damn sense. Still, Blake isn't very orthodox here. Not calling for backup when he sees our good part. Thank you. Finally, someone else said it. I'll bust it up and just waltzing in there like, yo, sorry, man, some dude just up and busted in this dump up where he saw people police work. Agreed. As I mentioned, I don't think Blake's the greatest police officer. So would it make sense why they might not check? But yeah, I mean, yeah, you think that they would, but also if we never got an answer back about who, about exhuming the body and stuff, which ideally, obviously takes longer than just talking to a landlord. But maybe all this went down before they could get an answer back. Because if Erica did indeed own both of those, then that would have been able to be traced back. And if someone named Mia Green, or it could be a different different name or something, did own the place, and they'd be like, wait a second, maybe she's not dead. It is very possible that's after the first question mark there, the second question mark, maybe someone else does own the place, and they were gone for a good couple weeks or month or so. All she would need was like 3 or 4 days for this whole thing to transpire. So it's a possibility that they did go off on vacation, and the name didn't match either Erica's or Mia's when they checked it. So it's just like, there's no Mia living there, Erica, So that is also a possibility. I just kind of chalked it up to sloppy police work, but if Erica did own both those flats, since they immediately after the phone call, they checked with the phone company after seeing Mia. She says she saw Mia, and they're like, she's dead. They immediately went to exhume the body. I'm sure after they found the body Steinbeck's body in that apartment, I'm sure the first thing they did was went to the landlord, as it is an apartment, it is a flat. So I don't think it's a house, though a flat could refer to a house as well. In British English, I'm not 100% positive. I'm pretty sure it's an apartment, but I don't know. Maybe it's not. And if it's not an apartment, if it's just like a townhouse or something, then they would have to go check city records to find out who lives there, which could take some time. Which, there we go, the same thing as exhuming the body. There's a chance that it didn't. It just took too long. And everything went down before they could get an answer back. Because if they would have got an answer back, been like, what the fuck you mean an Erica Mason owns that fucking house too? That could have been the situation. But if it was an apartment, yeah, all they would have to do is talk to the landlord. So that one could be chopped up to just Blake's a shitty police officer, because it's pretty true. Or they just glanced over that part. That's like the one thing they didn't check, and so they just didn't mention it in the story. That's also a possibility. I don't know. Place wasn't abandoned, that's for sure. Other ways, someone was living there. Medical stuff in the fridge points to what must be Green who placed it there. I don't see how Erica would have murdered the guy, set the place up, and steal all the pink stuff in just one night. It's possible. Yeah, but maybe she did. That's a possibility. The thing is, Erica being a giant murderer doesn't really add up to what Delphi House is doing to its patients. That's the last thing they want. I'm confused by this. Being a giant murderer doesn't really add up to what Delphi House is doing to its patients. I mean, they're unrelated. Well, no. They're related, unrelated. She's not killing these people because of what they're doing to the patients. She's killing them because of what they did to her mother, who was a patient. But that's the last thing they want. I don't know what he means by that. That's the last thing that Delphi wants? What is Delphi not wanting Erica be murderer has to... That part confuses me, but yes, no, those two things are not connected, because it's the past. It's the past that she's fighting before. Not what they're currently doing to their patients, but what they did to their patients. One of which being her mother. Nobody ever seems to see Green anywhere. Not even when she's dying. Yep, no one's ever seen her. She's only there when it's just Erica or someone who's just died. Just died or is just about to die. No one ever takes note of Green. Only people to see her is Erica, Blake, and the caretaker. Who's the caretaker? Oh, I think it means the night guard. In game as seen by player. Both of the last two who die, possibly at Erica's hand, the game's conclusion is pretty non-existent for when Erica decides to stay with Lucien and keep the secret. More conclusive endings would have helped, agreed. Not that I mind, leaving with my best buds cheers me up, yo. I agree. I think everyone's I've read has come to the consensus that that is the best ending. Like, it makes me happy. Like, I wish it could be Hannah as well, but just leaving with Toby and Kirsty, just makes me happy. It just makes me smile. But the only other ending that actually kind of brings somewhat closure is, I was home something, I don't know, but staying with Lucien. Happy home, I think that was what it's called. As God, you think I would know. But what I truly wish to know is about the paranormal side of this. If it's not all science and drugs, then what's all this about rituals and seeing the future? It obviously works seeing the future, otherwise Delphi staff wouldn't bother. But nothing is explained about the paranormal aspect that may be. Does anyone know anything about Greek mythology like Apollo or Delphi Temple? What did all of that crap do? Are there any Xena episodes about I like this person. Who is this? Terminus Cross? I like you. You're fucking funny, dude. You're really funny. I like that. That's great. Again, I think it's all just the hallucinations from the drugs. I think her father told her this stuff, and remember, she puffed that shit in when her father was telling her all this, so that's also up in there as what he actually said or not. What actually happened, what she all hallucinated. But when her father mentions that, he used to tell her, she would tell me stories and I tell her stories, I think that was just him pleasing, just having fun talking to his developmentally disabled wife. I think she would tell him stories because she wasn't all there and truly believed them, potentially. And she was also probably on that hallucinogen shit, because she lived in the house. And so, him just being nice would tell her stories too. I don't think anything about that's real. And of course, they do mention when you're making the perfume that, like, these, what do they say, like, natives or something, I don't remember, like ancient tribes and stuff would would do this, but like could see the future and stuff like that. Like, I mean, that's definitely kind of more ancient, nomadic, shaman like stuff. They would do that all the time with all different types of hallucinogenic plants and materials and stuff. Just they would inhale it all in and see visions. It's just it's just stories. None of it's necessarily true. So I don't think all the paranormal, supernatural stuff going on. I think it's all hallucinations. I don't think any of it's real, and none of it has ever been shown, except for when she has gotten hit by that stuff. Whether it be in the perfume disperser, being sprayed by Mia, or inhaling it at the end. None of that is seen unless she's been hit by the hallucinogen shit. So I think it's all fake. Oh, I didn't answer that. Why does she sometimes wake up outside with a petal in her toe? I think when you get super, super fucked up by that, by the pollen, and you start hallucinating and stuff, like, you're too conked out. That's why Hannah has to keep yelling at you for you eventually to wake up so you don't go anywhere. When you're not, when you trash that shit, when you don't use that shit, honestly, again, I'm blaming the multiple personality disorder. I think your other personality goes out. And then you just wake up and you're just like, how the fuck did I get here? Because you weren't in control when you got there. So that's my suspicion of why that happened. I don't know what's up with the string. Again, that could be just, she was having an episode and part of her shirt got caught and stuff, just to show that she really has no control when she's in that other state of mind. I think this is what that is. But then again, I could be completely pulling this out of my ass. I don't fucking know shit. So who knows? Why did the others wake up with a handful of petals? Where did they come from? Surely the perfume is enough. I think that shit's just everywhere. As mentioned with Hannah, who is the only one, like all of them have hallucinated seeing the petals. Hannah's the only one who's woken up having them, and if you read Hannah's confidential file, on top of the desk, the cabinet, I guess it's a desk, when you're making the perfume, it says that Hannah's a lucid dreamer. I would not be surprised at all if she went out and picked petals that night and then woke up with them. So that's why I think that no one else has woken up with petals in their hand. All the rest of them just had hallucinations, which again is a side effect of that of that fucking perfume. I like that. I don't know where this sentence is going, but I like the beginning of this. And me agreeing is just impossible. I'm sorry. If she's really real, why does no one else see her? Even when dying in the hallway, unable to continue, Kirsty says she didn't see anyone. There are so many hints that she's in your head. Lucien even says so at the end. No, I agree with that 100%. I don't think there's any way that she's alive. I honestly don't think there's any way that she's alive, which truly makes me believe the multiple personality disorder theory, and not the there's actually a cult theory. I don't think she's real. I agree with that. We finally found someone. Okay, I didn't look deep enough. We finally found someone who's kind of putting it together of the same things we did here. Finally found someone. Why does father keep saying it's you, Erica? It's always been you in the flashback. I took that to mean that she actually killed him. Boom. The reason why this is just blowing me away is because I thought it was obvious. Like, I thought that these were obvious things that the directors were saying to be like, yeah, she did it. But no one else is mentioning this. The other person is like, yeah, I'm pretty sure green's real. I was just like, what? I'm sorry? Am I the only one who sees it like this? But green also can't be... Ooh, this is exciting. But green also can't be fake, because then who would rent the apartment next door? I think she can be. Because we've already gone over that. That one is a little bit tricky. And it truly depends. I'm going to actually look up the British definition for flat. See if that can mean house. Because their structures, a lot of the structures are not the same. Depends. It's in London, right? She lives in London. I've been to London, luckily enough. And the houses are they're connected. It's like New York. Like, the houses are fucking connected to each other. So it is very possible that this could be a house that's just connected to another. It's also possible that the landlord doesn't live on site and they have to get a hold of them, and that's taking a couple days, which is plenty of time for Erica to finish everything she needs to finish. Now, there's a chance that if what I'm saying is true, that if another day or two went by and they heard back from either the body or the landlord or the state, city, whatever, because it's not, heard back from the city or whoever owns the property, of just like, yeah, she owns both of them. I think everything turns around and Erica gets thrown to jail immediately, but luckily time just worked out perfectly for her. Because if you think about it, she kills a lot of people, burns down the house, and leaves with a bunch of inmates. The police are going to be looking for her, so pretty much it's the same result if they waited a little bit to find out that no, Mia Green is actually dead, and Erica owns both of those places. Because if you think about it, how would Erica own a place by herself? It clearly seems like she doesn't have a job. It's not mentioned. She's not paying for it herself. I think she's paying for it either getting stipends from Lucien, as I mentioned in a previous video, or just life insurance policy from her father. Either way, I think she's getting, seeing as how he owned a respectable business, I think she gets quite enough money to live off of. Pretty sure she's getting enough money to be able to own both houses. It doesn't seem like anyone's checking up on her. Who would know? But maybe it is neighbors that went out on vacation. I don't know. Turn flat. A flat is what American would understand as an apartment. There we go. British renters were likely referred to any single residence in a building with other such residents as a flat. So yes, I think apartment just means flat. I don't think it means house. So then, I mean, it is London, but this is London back in the day. London, I don't know. I've just heard from people who live in London, who work in London, because I talked to some people when I was there, that it's very fucking expensive to live in London. To rent an apartment. But this was way back in the day, so maybe it wasn't that expensive. So I imagine she could easily own both locations, or his neighbors were out on vacation. It's also a possibility. So there is a possibility. There are answers here. So she can be fake, because I think this one could be answered. But this one, I don't think this one's been answered. So it is possible that she's impossible. I don't think it's possible that she's real. So I don't know. Right, okay. So Dragosty Damon here says the first one, which is the night manager at the hospital, and was locked because she was home. The night manager was searching her apartment. She got into a fight with him. I don't think he did for that one. But remember, there was a camera that saw her exiting the passage, which is why they closed off. That doesn't answer his question of why the fuck would it have a key if they had that. But there's the explanation to why it was locked off, and that doesn't make sense to me. Whoa! Oh, fucking this Dragosty Damon. Fucking, I only read 1 second of this. Listen to here, okay. Okay, she has split personality, one of Green and one of herself. I'm so proud right now. That's all I know. One never saw Green, but Blake never saw her when he was getting shot. The other apartment was hers too. Give this person a medal. Someone who has the same exact thoughts that I do. Okay. Was hers too. That where she was when she was always having her outbreaks is Green, which is why there was a picture of Green in the background that they found in that apartment. She was fixated on her to get rid of the guilt of killing her father. Fucking genius. Why she denied her being dead so much, and why she sees her for the first time before the gift with the hand, which she did to make herself face the reality by having to go back to Delphi House. Maybe. Lots of things show she killed her dad, like the flashbacks of her jumping back with blood on her as a kid. The nosebleeds are from a mental breakdown of finding out more and more of the truth. Possibly. I mean, she had. It's weird because she's been kind of off and on exposed to that stuff since she was little. So it's weird that she would just start bleeding and have these effects now when other people it only takes like a couple months to like 2 or 3 years. But I'm sure she maybe didn't have contact with it for several years, and maybe having contact with it again started up these side effects. Or it's very possible. Nosebleed could be from her brain finding out something it's been trying to block, and just this drain just caused negative side effects. The vision of her father saying, "It's you. It's always been you." Her father and those others were doing experiments on her, and that's why, with her argument with Green, when Green says her father made her a monster, that was really what she was thinking, and the reason Green was running out of time was because she was realizing the truth or rejecting it. They were converging! She was figuring out that it was her, and the two personalities were becoming one! Dragosti. That's how I'm going to assume what your name is. You, sir, or madam, are a genius! Obviously, because you agree with me, so therefore you're a genius. Also, she is addicted to the petals. That's why she's always finding them everywhere. She's using them in her subconscious to tell herself that this is what's influencing her. Possibility. I don't want to reject it. Also, the whole seeing the future has to do with the butterfly and Delphi, who is an oracle of Apollo. There you go. There you go. Good to know. The butterfly represents the butterfly effect, like when something small in the past changes the whole future, so if they can see the future, they can change it for themselves. They believe the butterfly on her hand and her mother was the symbol of Delphi, an oracle. It should be an oracle. So they should have had the ability, like an oracle, to see the future. The reason she asked Green to show her how to kill is because that's when her subconscious and her start to get along together, and the reason Green finally disappears is because at that point in time you either accept her completely of the path she chose, or you reject it, making that side of her subconscious completely unneeded. Agreed. Either become one, or she refuses to accept it and banishing. I will accept it, but it's pretty much like, I don't need you anymore, get out of me, and it finally pushes it out, which is a huge mental breakthrough to have, so I doubt she could have that in such a short time, but it's a game, so possible. It's possible that it can happen because it's a game and or a movie. This person, the people there in the end are the guilty ones, not her. They made her into a monster by trying to control her, but her mind didn't break down. It made Green to protect her. That's what I said. Like Green tried protecting her mother, but the real Green died from losing her mother. If you have any questions about pieces that don't fit, post on my comment. I will tell you how it fits. The whole story fits. It's just you have to see through see through the dreams, reality, and most of all the unreal. I agree. I think the story does make sense, actually. This says the story makes no sense. I actually disagree. I think the story does make sense if you understand how this is all playing on the psyche. If you're looking at it from this point of view that myself and apparently Dragoste, that's how I'm just going to pronounce it, is seeing it through. If you start thinking of it in a reality sense and start breaking it down with with the mental psyche, which maybe not everyone is super familiar with. I have studied a lot of psychology. I actually thought about becoming a psychologist, so I do have a little bit of a leg up on why people act the way they do and whatnot. I wouldn't say I'm an expert at it or I'm even good at it or anything. It's just I've studied this stuff, so I do know a lot about this kind of behavior. Also, I spent 2 years taking care of people with developmental disabilities. I've seen a lot of videos and trainings and stuff about certain places that got shut down and whatnot. I've seen the way that people have treated other people. I've, again, in psychology classes, have learned like methods like lobotomies and how they just thought like if you remove this part of the brain, that must be the defective part of the brain, it'll fix them. Like, I think that's why I can see a little bit more into this stuff than maybe other people can. I do not know. But this person is on it. That's why I think that the story does make sense if you understand certain things. Like, yes, multiple personality disorder. It's 100% what I'm calling it. And I also think she was schizophrenic too, but that's just a little neither here nor there. Or at least her green personality was schizophrenic. Either way. Okay, this is interesting here. God, this is a long one here, so I'll try to get through it as possible here. The gunshot could have been a through shot, because I was asking, like, you know, how it could be, he could be shot from two different, Blake could be shot from two different, but anyways. I'm currently working on a bizarre theory. Someone is and has been drugging Erica to do bidding. The apartment next door in those mind-altering drug vials is just his dad was drugging her from a young age to make her more susceptible and see how she'd react. She was probably at the stage where she was easily manipulated with him. It's possible they even altered her perception of reality. Think about it, she was repeatedly exposed to hallucinogenic drugs for years, if we could believe some of the stuff about her dad. The question is, who owned the apartment with the drugs in them? I think Erica had been drugged by the owner of the apartment on multiple occasions. Green is almost guaranteed to be a hallucination. She disappears randomly and appears on the wrong side of the room, which I mentioned. She does not obey the laws of physics. The phone calls only ever occur when no one else is in the room. How would they know Erica is alone? The phone calls are in her head, a hallucination. There is also the line repeated by Green and Erica's dream father, "It's you, it's always been you." It's also possible she gets these revelations of hallucinating phone calls going forward because she has been drugged and taken Sixton's phone call before. But I digress. There's a few ways I can take it. It's you, hallucination comment. One way is Erica's been continuing to take the drugs herself. Erica owns the apartment across the way. One way is Erica has been continuing to take drugs herself. Erica owns the apartment across the way. She's drugging up, and her subconscious is acting out murder fantasies. She's coping by using the hallucination of Green, who really was her father's killer. I don't think that's true. I don't agree with that part, because if Green did actually die, she died. She died at least months to years before her father died. So, I don't think that's true. She's acting out her father's murder on those she deemed responsible, aided by mind-altering drugs. I don't know if we can actually see the future, but I believe there is a real cult, and the cult really does think seeing the future is real. I also don't agree with that. But that is interesting. Option 2, someone knows about Erica's dad experimenting on her and has been using the drugs to use Erica to mop up their dirty work. But then who? Dr. Ballard is interesting. Blake asks her why she is here. Referring to Duffy House, she seems obsessed with the regression machine. I'm not 100% sure Ballard is convinced the rituals work. I am sure she's drugging the girls in the name of science and the regression therapy. I'm just not sure if she doing it specifically because of the rituals or because she's curious about the effects of the machine and the drugs as a scientist. She is in charge of all the girls being used in the ritual, so she's heavily involved. She will tell you that the dreams of massive flower petals is a consequence of the regression therapy, which we assume is not because you have those dreams, even if you refuse the therapy. But would you remember the therapy itself in all scenarios? However, I hesitate to say she's the one telling Erica to murder, because if you push her, Ballard will tell you truthfully how to save Toby, and she'll attempt to grab Kirsty and beg her to run with her because you are dangerous. This does not strike me as a murderous behavior. Blake seems to be a dirty cop, but while he's in the pocket of some of his lines, like, "Damn, Erica, I thought you were a victim," when there is no witness, seems to indicate he is not the mastermind. Fascinating. Fascinating. This is gonna be the last one, I promise. The Khajiit werewolf does post again here, so we might look at that too. I don't know. Honestly, of all the characters, if one is drugging Erica, I would suspect Lucien. He and Erica's dad were close. He knew about the doll. I found that his dialogue with Blake to be the most interesting, almost like he's probing to see how close Blake's gotten. But then, what would his motive be? Why wipe out all of his co-conspirators in part using Erica? I'd argue it's because they actually care. The last guy to die, the chief inspector, will try to reveal the whole thing to Erica, seemingly if Erica draws close to his daughter. He probably wanted out. It's true, he does say we need to talk, and there's nothing that explains why they needed to talk. My theory was because he's like, I know what you've been up to. We need to talk. I think it's you. But it did seem like when you're spying on Ballard and him in the beginning, he's saying like, I want to see my daughter, shit's going down. And she's like, no, Lucien said you can't. She's in her therapy, she can't be interrupted right now. At this current time. It does seem like he wanted to like spill the beans of some kind, but then he's killed. And Eric, he is the first one to notice that Erica's bleeding. I like this. Khajiit werewolf. I like this. I really like this. Perhaps the others wanted out too. Or maybe they just knew too much. Maybe Lucien wanted a fresh start, new cultists with less of a conscience. If it would help if Erica had a willing accomplice, but when Erica makes a deal with Green, a figment of her own mind, I agree, that's when things got out of hand. Lucien is no longer in control. She's figuring it out. She's fighting the drug's influence. That is an interesting theory. I think he continues on with here, though. He or she continues on here. So how would the Lucien drug Erica theory work? Lucien or someone in his employ owns the apartment across the street from Erica. I'd argue Steinbeck is the most likely candidate. That's fair. That is fair. I'll explain how he got there. Hear me out. Someone was legitimately spying on Erica. I just assumed it was herself. But someone was legitimately spying on Erica. Now this is the kind of shit I wanted to find. They were absolutely obsessed with the cult symbol. Steinbeck has the tattoo. He's an ardent cultist. Steinbeck does not live at the apartment, but he visits there, and he spies. He can see into Erica's apartment, perhaps even drugs her on occasion. He proves she's ready. This means Steinbeck can act. Lucien needs Erica for his rituals. He's also facing pushback from people in his cult who wish to stop, mainly Kirsty's father, so Lucien orders Steinbeck to kill the first man and send Erica the arm. Steinbeck, the over-eager pawn, agrees. Lucien pays off Blake to suggest Erica move there for safety. Blake even admits in one route Lucien is paying him to hide evidence. Is that what they said? Because I don't remember that. Lucien is paying him to hide evidence. Once Erica is in his domain, he drugs her the first night with the perfume, which he does bring in, or has someone bring in, and gives her very detailed instruction. He drugs Steinbeck too. Steinbeck is night manager. He trash his own apartment and to go to the neighboring apartment to wait and don't resist. He tells Erica to thrash her own apartment, go across to the neighbors, and kill Steinbeck. Steinbeck was a liability. He was too radical. He knew too much. Even drugged, he may push back a bit, so Erica got injured. Again, we're connecting the theory that Steinbeck injured Erica. That's how she got the... or maybe Steinbeck wasn't drugged, just ordered to that neighboring apartment and taken unaware, and his own apartment was trashed later. Then the third victim, Chrissy's father, he is the one with a conscience. Erica begins to bleed. She's out of the way. Lucien knows he's setting Erica up as a fall guy. He's saying he's going with Blake. He finds an excuse to delay Blake for 1 minute, or maybe he even sprays him with a drug to stun him. 1 minute is all it takes. Stun the victim with the drug. Remove suit jacket while cutting to avoid blood. Put suit back on to cover any stains. Erica finds that man bleeding to death within minutes of the nosebleed. I think she did it herself, but that is also possible. I think this third man is the only one Lucien killed personally, either drugging or otherwise manipulating Blake to not suspect him. This is why we can't find Lucien pressing Blake about what Erica knows. This is why we can find Lucien pressing Blake about what Erica knows. If she's lying, he wants all suspicion off of himself, and he also wants to make sure Blake isn't looking at him. He also wants to persuade Blake that Erica is guilty of all the murders, and like that, all of his dangerous cohorts are taken care of, and he has his new butterfly. Ballard is too eager to pursue her research to be a problem. She has too much blood on her hands from past patients. Lucien's plan would be to continue to drug Erica, make her appear insane, and when she eventually got accused of all the murders, she would remain a patient at his hospital, undergoing regression therapy. The police and prosecution paid off to make it happen, as he has a long history of doing this. The rest of Lucien couldn't foresee. He didn't know Erica was hallucinating green. Her actions, killing the guard, killing Blake, they were a mistake, and so it goes. This is a ridiculously complicated theory, but I'm really struggling to see how else any of this would work, because if Erica was drugged herself, who is supplying the drugs? I assume she was creating them. But if she was being supplied those drugs, like if she owned that apartment, and that's a lot of stuff to be making your own supply, but then again, she's had a lot of years by herself. That is a fascinating theory. Wow. That is, a possibility. That is, as he put out, they put out there, as a ridiculous fucking theory. A ridiculously complicated theory. But possible. Putting it out there. Possible. 100% possible. Wow. And Khajiit is also responding to the split personality theory. I'm very interested in what they have to say about that. I like this theory too, and deeply considered it. I really like this Khajiit werewolf person. I hope that's how you pronounce the name. My own rambling theory about an evolution above. My major problems with this theory: does Erica have the materials to make the perfume? And if not, who is supplying her? No, I agree with that. I agree with that sentiment. I honestly do agree with that sentiment. That's why I assumed was that Erica was making the shit herself. I assumed just Mia was taking over and she was going and stealing the shit. Or she clearly knows where all these places are. And there was probably a huge supply that I assume that would have been confiscated by the police at the barn and whatnot, but they obviously had access to make at the barn. I assume she set up shop at the barn, started taking the materials and creating it. She had many years to do this, and started creating up the stockpile that you saw at was creating it there at the barn and transferring it home to that place. I think she was setting up shop at that barn that was abandoned, that she knew after years of no one being there that no one was going to be there. No one was ever going to show up. Because even when Blake showed up there and he saw the Delphi sign, he was just like, we saw that in that last play that we just did. He was just like, what the fuck is this? You know? So I assume she was making that shit there. I think she had perfect access to get there. No one was on high alert, so there wouldn't be security at night. She could easily get there Clip the oleander. Apparently, all the rest you needed was ethanol. Pretty sure she could obtain it. So I'm pretty sure she was making it herself. And yes, that would take a long time, but she had the time. So I agree here with the statement. Green wouldn't have killed Erica's father with your theory, and I agree. I agree completely. I don't think she would have. But this part, but then how would Erica have known about Green? We've already established that Erica was living with her mother when her mother was alive at Delphi House. Therefore, Green was there. Erica would know about Green. And the fact that she now doesn't know about Green now, is again she was young. I feel like her brain created this, because like you know what they say. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but people have mentioned that like when you see people in your dreams and stuff, and you don't recognize the person, you're like, I've never seen this person before in my life. How did my dream create this? I think your brain usually takes faces from just strangers that you just see throughout the day, throughout your life, and would put them on the faces in your dreams and stuff. Your brain is very powerful. She saw Mia, probably even had interactions with Mia, and then it probably created Mia as this alternate personality. And then, she grew up. She probably forgot about Mia, but her brain didn't, because it was part of her personality now. That's my guess again. That's just theories of how this would make sense. How would she know about Green? Because she was alive with her mother when Green existed. She would know about Green, even if she was very young, so she probably wouldn't remember it. But she saw at least Green at some point when she lived there. From observing interactions at Delphi House, I knew she lived there for a time. But the question would be how much she would have known Green to associate Green with her father's death. I honestly don't think it matters how much she would know about her, how well she would know about her. I think the brain would just implant the rest, would fill in the blanks. Brain is insanely powerful that way. Yeah. But no, these are all good theories. These are all good questions. I like this. But yeah, it is a good point that it makes sense that she could I feel like they would have to have had some interactions, and either her brain protecting itself made her forget about Green completely, or she just grew up and just kind of forgot that Green existed, but it was already too late. It already became part of her psyche. I would say it was one of those two, but I don't know. I think if I personally went down the Erica is the murderer route, I'd have to make things completely different. I'd have to make the cult completely 100% fake, which I think it is. I honestly think it is. I think it's hallucination. I think it's all in her head. All of it fake, and that Erica was insane before she ever killed her father. Yes. No, I believe she was. I believe that she absolutely 100% was. I think she had her own developmental disabilities, or created them by the shock of seeing her mother locked away and her mother's death. That I think that trauma made her insane. I think it literally made her crazy. But also just looking at, I don't know if it's just the actress that plays Erica or if she's doing it well, but when you look at Erica as a little girl, she looks like she's not all there. Like she looks like she's a little whack in the head, So I believe it, 100% believe it. I call this the non-supernatural ending. Yeah, no, 100%. I think you can see it in different ways as the evolution ending, the non-supernatural ending. I like these theories. I really like these theories. So child Erica is born to people, doctors at Doug's house. Being doctors, they are super involved in their work. They're always busy and not around. Erica's social interaction comprises a lot of the time with other patients who aren't mentally fit and aren't the best role models. She starts picking up their behaviors. The petals are a soothing smell. That's literally all it is. Erica begins showing worrying personality traits. Her father decides to try his life's work, regression therapy on his own daughter. It's his misguided way of trying to help her. Possible. It incorporates images of the masked creatures and the butterfly. It impacts her subconscious. The masks were in the hallway, the petals, and the fire, and the ritual are all what Dr. Ballard says. There are byproducts of regression therapy, but having your memories edited is hardly healthy. Yes. Erica is struggling to remain stable. It's made all the worse when her mother dies. She blames Green for this. She would have interacted with Green. Green hogged her mother's attention. Green took her mother away, and it was Green's fault her mother died. That's an interesting thought. I disagree. I don't think there's any evidence in there of why she would blame Green. I don't. I could definitely see she was upset with Green hogging her mother's attention because Green was very protective of her mother. But I don't think I don't think anyone's gonna take away the time from from a mother and her child, but you never know. But I don't think it was Green's fault that her mother died. I think her mother just died of everything else that everyone else, that was the same shit that everyone else in the house was dying from. That same thing that Hannah got taken away from, and, so I disagree with that part. I think because Green was aggressive, cause Green was violent, in her behaviors that Erica clearly saw when she was growing up. I feel like it was just a natural fit for that. This is my murderous aggressive side. This is the embodiment of this personality, and I think that would be an easy connection to make. I don't think this part is connected. I don't think this part. I would disagree with this part, but I like where you're going. Good theory. I like this. She would also blame her father, who was the one who had her mother committed. Yes, absolutely. Erica's father continues the regression theory, trying to mute Erica's pain at her mother's death, trying to mute her hatred for Green. I still don't agree with that part. Erica finally snaps and kills her own father, carving the symbol of his work into his chest. I agree. She's kept at the hospital and regression therapy continues. She forgets. It is regression after all. At 18, which, as I said, I feel like she has to be anywhere between 18 and 21. Yeah, she's declared fit and released, but she's not fit. 100%. I agree. I agree. She owns the apartment. She makes the perfume, not because it does anything, but because it simply is nostalgic. Maybe. I'd say partly yes, because she's probably been exposed to it for so many years. But I'd also say partly, I also say she would make it because she wants to use it against others. But maybe partly because she's just so used to it, she kind of wants to keep that effect going, that good feeling or something. I don't know. She obsesses over Green, who still blames for her mother's death. I still disagree with that. And she's transferred this blame to her father's death. Erica is the one obsessed with the culture of the gods and the meanings, because for Erica it has to be real in order for her to keep her sanity. Or at least for that personality, it has to be real. Otherwise, her brain will break and she will go crazy. She commits the murders. Green's manifestation is her subconscious trying to make her realize what she's done. I also don't agree with that. I think it's the exact opposite. I think Green is pretty much the like why Green says like I would never hurt you. I'm here to protect you. Is pretty much a like look away. I'll do the dirty work. You stay protected. I'll be the murderous force. I think it's the exact opposite actually. I don't think it's trying to make her realize what she's done. I think it's trying to help her forget so that innocent side can stay innocent. And so her brain can keep those two personalities separate from itself so it doesn't become one destructive force that will tear her apart. Will actually make her lose her last shred of sanity. If those two collide, she will actually lose it. And that's why that's why I think at the end of the story, at the end of the game, she starts seeing those flashes like constantly. She says she feels like she's going insane. Like, you know, at the end she's just like, I don't know what's happening with me. I keep seeing with me with blood and stuff. You know, like they connected, and her brain can't handle it, and that's why it's separated in the first place. Is because it couldn't handle it. It did it to save and protect her, but now that it's coming back together, it's bad. She's going crazy. She's losing her sanity. And that's why I don't think it's a subconscious trying to make her realize. I think it's her subconscious separating so that it doesn't get destroyed. So I think it's pretty much the like cover your eyes while I do the killing. You stay out of this. So I disagree with that, but Erica hallucinates shadows, the girls in masks, even flickering lights. She's the epitome of the unreliable narrator. Okay. Erica was the murderer. The regression therapy was at fault. I could agree with that. There is no cult, just girls without people to care for them being abused by corrupt scientists to test out a therapy technique. Agreed. The hidden pedal room is tiny, hardly a ritual chamber. Agreed. It is a place to grow ingredients, nothing more. I agree, because they had all the stuff there to make this shit, and it was the stuff that was sprouting out. So I assume it's where it was just born from, and just And the sheer number of possibilities either makes this story excellent or beyond frustrating. I think that is the perfect place that we can end that. I've been talking for so long. But Khajiit, werewolf, even though I disagree with some parts in there, I think you nailed it. I think you 100% nailed it, and I love your evolution theory. That is fascinating. That's really cool. But yeah, I mean, I disagree with some of the things with Green. I think everything is correct. I think you, in my opinion, I think you go in the wrong way on the whole Green thing. I don't think she blames Green. I think she just, for her mother's death or anything like that, I think Green just became her violent personality when her mental split, because Green was just a violent person that protected her mother, and this is the side that's trying to revenge her mother. So I think that's why. I don't think she blamed Green at all, but I don't know. Possibly could. 100% possibly could. I could be wrong. I don't know. But I think this one sentence sums up Erica completely. The sheer number of possibilities either makes this story frustrating. You know what, Werewolf, I'm going to disagree with you again. I'm going to disagree with you one more time here. I don't like this word right here. I think the sheer number of possibilities makes this story excellent and beyond frustrating. I think it makes the story amazing, but fuck do I want to know the truth. Fuck do I want to know what really happened. And God, is it frustrating. So fucking frustrating. So I think it's both. It's what makes me love this story so much, but it also drives me insane. Oh my god, I'm so tired. My throat is so... It's getting sore. Talking so much, it's rawing up. So yes, I love that we found somebody that thinks exactly the way we think, even if it was slightly different, but I love the variation of theory. And I love that we found other theories besides just that the cult was real, like that all this supernatural stuff was happening. I really love this evolution theory of it, because it's like the cult is real, but it's not what Erica sees it as. It's not this like crazy, the future peddles huge groups of people. Like, no, it's just like, it's technically a cult, but on a smaller scale. And Lucien's the ringleader, and all of his lackeys he's trying to take out, with Erica being the bait and the scapegoat. I love that theory. We found a really cool theory that I didn't even come close to thinking of. I did not put Lucien in that position of power, and I love this fucking theory. So great fucking job. We dug up exactly what I needed to be satisfied with this ending, and I'm glad that we did. This was a great thread. PSN profiles. The people who posted on here, you did an amazing job. Thank you for having this platform so that these people could post this great shit on here. And of course, ending with this, we'll come back to it. This is only 3 minutes. 3 minutes. I would love to see the behind the scenes real fast, and then we'll end this bitch off. Let's kick it off. Now, I don't remember seeing this. Oh no, I do.
Erica is the first game at Flavorworks, where we're trying to merge the worlds of film and video games in a way that no one's really done before. In the game, you're kind of like the conscience or the voice in the head of this young woman called Erica, and you're guiding her on her journey through this story. And some of the ways you do this is through traditional storytelling game mechanics such as dialogue choices, but more importantly, you can touch the world. It's almost like you're a surrogate to Erica's touch. And so that can be like brushing dust off an old book and flicking through the pages to find all these answers out about her past or about the things that are going on in this world. And also whether it's interfacing with another character, such as wiping a tear from their cheek. But we even don't stop there. We do some really cool things in this tech we've built, like allowing you to pull the focus in the camera itself. And really modeling this world to feel like it's 3D and solid, as opposed to, just a flat video on a screen.
Though, with him saying that, I will agree with a review that I saw when I was searching through all this. I just kind of glanced through this person's review. And all those effects that he just mentioned are really, really cool. Like, they're really awesome. But once you've done it once, and you can't skip it, it really becomes tedious. Like, literally every time I would start the game over when I'd skip and you guys wouldn't see it, I would literally, when I wasn't using my phone and I had my controller and I had my phone in one hand, I would just be watching a video and just looking over, touch the thing, okay, it's about time, looking over, touch the thing. I would just completely ignore the game because it's just like, I am so tired of flipping the thing, lighting the lighter, lighting the thing, turning the thing on. Stop! Let me skip this part, please. I've already seen the story, let me skip. So, it's really fucking cool the first time you do it, but then I agree with the other guy, it gets really fucking tedious anytime you go back, because I don't want to see the story of her taking out the doll, undoing the wrapper, flipping the thing, opening the door. Here's a doll. I've seen the scene. I get it. Anyways.
The way that you play Erica is actually very simple. You just turn on the game and you get your phone or your controller and you use your phone to interact with the world in the way that you expect that this world should behave. So if you see something you should be able to touch, you can touch it. If you see a moment where Erica can make a decision, you can make that decision for her and you can just live through this story.
Erica is a young woman. She's the protagonist of the story. She's had this incredibly traumatic childhood event in her past, and now it's sort of followed her into her adulthood. She's found herself at this place.
That's another thing I just want to kind of mention here. I'm sorry, I'm pausing a lot. I really like Holly, and I want to watch everything that she's in because I think she's a really good actress. I'd also like to follow the guy who plays Lucien. I don't remember the names. I'm sorry. Lucien and Hannah. I also think that they were really good. Also Toby. Toby's when you're Toby's BFF, the little subtleties in her face of like when you can tell you're breaking through and she's like, someone actually cares about me. Just that little hint of just like softness for just a second, where you can tell she's like, the fuck you mean someone actually caring about me? Immediately like, no, you're tricking me. Comes back to the hardness. It's just like amazing. Like that really sunk with me. So, but when I looked up a video of Holly, it's like of her talking about acting, I think just in general. It was so weird because like in here, like you can tell everyone's British because they have a slight British accent. But then when I heard her talking, it was like thick British accent. I was like, whoa. Like, this is a British game. Why didn't they have a British accent, like, her this thick of a British accent from beginning to end? She's got pretty, like, she's British.
Called Delphi House, and it's this really mysterious place, and things are starting to connect to her past, and it's all about the player connecting the dots and figuring out what's actually gone on here.
I think it's incredible that we actually have PlayStations on set, so that people can film something and then we build it into the game, and then 2 days later they can just grab a controller and experience the world that they were creating 2 days ago and make sure that everything's up to scratch and everything's perfect and everything is as interactive as we want it to be.
This is the first time that live action in the games really worked in this way, where you can reach out and touch the world and have this world react to you in a...
Yes. But at the review I was also talking about mentions that it was a little sad because like right when they made this, these other two games came out. I can't remember what one was called. Bandersnatch, I think is what it's called. I can't remember. That just kind of did it, but like did it like a little bit better or something. So unfortunately, they got kind of swept under the rug. But he was right that they like when they were creating this, and unfortunately, the time it came out was a little bit too late. Because at the time, yeah, nothing like this had been done. But then all of a sudden, stuff like this had been done, and it just kind of pushed them to the side, which is kind of sad.
Meaningful and tactile way. So we just really can't wait for people to pick it up and play.
Alright, well I'm not going to make you go through the rest of this. I mean that was a little cool. I was kind of hoping for a little bit more. But I think I'll end this one out. I'm probably definitely going to go see if I can find more behind the scenes making of stuff. I doubt I can, but I'll try my best. I'm not going to show any of it. I'm just going to watch it for my own entertainment because I really did like the game this much. I'm going to end this one out by saying that there is probably more possibilities to this game. I have to really thank the writers. While it is incredibly frustrating to not know the truth, and I understand that as a writer you don't want people to know what you know as the truth, because you can go on as a writer, you can like create something and then listen what people say about it, like this evolution theory. Like either someone's looking, it's like, man, I don't know how someone came up with that. I really like that their brain went there. As the writer, you can be saying this, or just like, this person figured it out. This person figured it out, you know. And that's a really rewarding, thing that you can have happen as an interaction between a writer and a reader or a player, or perform whatever. I really wish I would know. I really wish I could know, like. You know, like some people on their deathbed want to meet like certain celebrities and stuff. Me, it's just like I want the writers of Erica in the room. Like you guys had to have had your own thoughts, or had at least a rough draft of what truly was going on, so that you can manipulate the world so well. because I assume in this situation they have to know exactly what they thought the story was. Because if you're just like, we don't know, it's all up in the air, we don't even know what the story is, it's not going to sync well together unless they get fucking lucky. But then it's going to be very disjunct and just kind of all over the place, which people saying the story makes no sense, maybe that was the case, I don't know. It made sense to me. So I think they had an idea set out so that they were able to manipulate it in different directions, leaving you wondering what truly is. So if I'm on my deathbed, I want to be like, yo, Make-A-Wish Foundation, get the writers of Erica in this room. I won't tell anybody, no cameras, what's really the story. I would love to know. But I just want to say thank you to the writers of this game. I don't think many people, except for a slight handful, as you can see, really care about the story as much as I do. Or I don't say as much as I do, because that sounds like self-proclaimed or figure myself up or something. Like, I'm sure there's quite a few people that do. I should say I don't think many people care as much as some of us do about this story. It's just like, yeah, it's okay, or just like, it wasn't really that great. I don't know why y'all over the moon about it. Like, I really enjoyed the story 1,000,000% more than I thought I would. When I was talking about Erica in a Portal Knights episode, I thought it would just be, oh, press X to not die. This will be worth a laugh. But I was wrong. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So thank you to the writers. Thank you for creating a game with a sheer number of possibilities that made the story so good, yet so beyond frustrating. Let me know your theories down below. I would love to hear some more cool theories, or if you agree with me or not. I would love to fucking know. Please let me know in the comments. Do it! This is the end of Erica, sadly, and I don't want to let it go, but I know I have to. I know I have to push this fucking button here to make it stop. So, for those of you who came along with me on this journey, those of you who watched every second of Erica and experienced it with me, thank you so fucking much. You're amazing. Don't let anyone tell you differently. Let me know what you think. I'll see you next time.